Back to school is busy enough. The last thing you need is shopping that makes it harder. Whether you're moving into a dorm, your first apartment, or just getting organized for the semester, Wayfair makes it easy to get everything you need in one place. Furniture, bedding, storage, decor, study essentials, all at prices you'll love, with fast shipping before move-in day. Get everything you need for back-to-school season. Shop Wayfair.com today.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Hey everybody, Randy Patterson here with Boomerocity, and welcome, where we're preserving the stories, music, memories, and voices that continue to inspire generations. Great songs often begin with great stories, and sometimes those stories remind us that we are far more connected than we've ever realized. My guest today is acclaimed indie folk and Americana artist Bird. That is her stage name. Her name is Janie Price, but we will call her Bird. And she has a new album out called Held Here Together, and it explores themes of hope, resilience, healing, and the bonds that carry us through life's journey. Today, we'll talk about the inspirations behind those songs, her creative process, and why authentic storytelling still matters in today's music. While you're listening, if you don't mind, hit like, and if you're not already a subscriber, hit subscribe, and please share any of the interviews that you enjoy on here with your friends and ask them to like and subscribe as well. So grab your favorite beverage, settle in, and join me as I welcome Bird to Boomerocity. Until next time, this is Randy Patterson with Boomerocity. Take care. Hello there.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Where are you clicking in from?
I'm in Sardinia in Italy today.
You're where? Southern Italy?
I'm in Sardinia, which is in an island next to Italy. Yeah.
Ah, okay. Gotcha. All right. Well,
Cool. I
before
like your
even go,
background. That's very cool.
well, I was hoping you might like it. So I want to make sure that I'm doing everything proper. Do you like to be referred to or addressed as Janie or as Bird? I want to address you appropriately.
Thank you very much. Normally Bird. You can say Bird, also known as Janie Price, but Bird, and people normally call me Bird.
Okay,
So
doke.
that's
All
great.
right.
Yeah.
Well, good
Yeah.
deal.
Cool.
Good deal. Are you performing there, or are you recording, or just vacationing?
It's actually vacation time for a couple of weeks. Yeah.
All
So
right.
finally, yeah, a little bit of time off, which is nice. Yeah.
Well, good deal. Well, I sure appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. I heard
Ah,
this
welcome.
album, and I had the opportunity, or was asked if I wanted to speak with you. I said, "Well, sure, why not?" Because I love the sounds, and
Sweet.
hopefully I can turn you on to a bunch of old people like me. So there you go.
I'd love that. And you don't look that old to me, so that's
Ah,
fine.
well, I,
But
I'm pushing. I'll be 67 this fall, so I'm
uh,
getting there. I'm seeing 70 is getting a little too close for me. So,
right
well,
on, I
listen,
hear you.
I want to introduce you to a whole lot of people with this interview. I'm recording it,
Thank
and
you.
it'll be posted later. So, for people who may be discovering your music for the first time, how would you describe Bird to everyone?
Yeah, it's a project where I work mainly in the genre of indie folk music, Americana.
Hmm.
Predominantly, I'm a singer-songwriter.
Good deal. And how long have you been at this?
Too long, a long time. This is my fifth or sixth album. I've lost count is the honest truth. But yeah, I started playing music when I was six, and I started working professionally when I was 18, and yeah, now I'm into the realms of getting closer to 10 albums than one. So it's a nice place to be.
Well, good deal. The
Mm.
the title of the album, Held Here Together, when I was, let me kind of approach it from a different angle here. As I was listening to the album two or three times now, slowly but surely, to me it felt less like a collection of songs and more like a complete experience. Is that a proper perception of the album?
Oh, that's a beautiful way to describe it. I'm very honored that you would feel like that about it. I mean, it's every artist's wish for people to come away from an album feeling like that, I think. Yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's why we kind of put songs, or it's why I put songs together and put albums out, because I'm trying to give people a kind of sonic experience. I'm trying to make a kind of complete world for the duration of that particular album. And every album that I make, I try and make a sort of slightly different world from the one that I was in before. You know, I felt it's quite
Mm-hmm.
important to kind of go on different journeys with different albums. So it's
Right.
nice that that's your takeaway. Yeah, I'm cool with that. Yeah.
I read that you said you never intended to make an album, so I'm curious, at what point did you realize, hey, I think I've accidentally made one?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I suppose I sort of did intend to make an album, really. I think that what happens just is that we make music differently now. You know, back in the slightly older days, we would make an album, then we would promote it, and we'd sort of release the singles after we made the album. Now, of course, because we have to feed the dark beast that is the algorithm, we're having to
Yeah.
constantly release music. Otherwise, we kind of drop off the face of the earth. We don't actually, obviously, but it feels like that. So you sort of end up releasing music as you're writing an album, like the opposite way around. The nice thing about that is that people almost go on the writing journey with you. You know, the downside is that when you've released the album, you're not giving people something like a kind of cool secret, because you already
Yeah.
let them in on the secret if you're going along. But I suppose in a lot of ways, it was just always going to be an album. It was just like I just released it as kind of singles and then bundled songs together as EPs. But I think once I'd pretty much by the time I'd released the first EP, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to have to be an album eventually. So, I think, it was in the back of my head. Yeah.
Why was the title Held Here Together the perfect title?
Yeah, I think that title just felt right for what I was doing. I think because I released the music the sort of wrong way around, and a way around that we never used to do, I felt like I wanted to give the songs that are kind of, a home. And so Held Here Together just felt like I was really describing to people what I'd done. I'd taken all of those songs that had to go out into the world by themselves, and I was just holding them gently in one in one place. And I think it was especially important reference to the vinyl, because it's lovely to be able to put something out again physically
Yeah.
and to kind of hold a group physically, so that's really what the title was.
Well, I'm old enough to remember when albums would come out. Before albums came out, there was those little 45s. And so kind of now, I guess digitally, it's kind of gone back to that. You release a single, except back then you had to have two songs to go out because you had the B side, right? So now there's a little bit of economy there to where you can release a song, see how that's striking, and see if you need to change course or something. Back then, you could have been a one or done.
Yeah, I did. So I think there are a lot of advantages to the way that we release music now. You're right, you can kind of try stuff out, but then at the same time, there was something so beautiful about the leap of faith that you made before. It wasn't really about reacting to a market. It was about just being an artist and putting out your very best work, and that's really what it should be. It's like maybe it doesn't hit as hard as you want it to. Maybe it doesn't reach all the people you want it to, but that body of work still stands. And now I feel that we have a little bit too much flexibility to react to things, and that maybe sometimes can also draw you off course as an artist, that you're tempted to write something that will stream well rather than write something that you really, really mean. So it can be a
Mm-hmm.
dangerous game, that little treat of being able to react to things quicker.
I agree. On my side of the microphone or the screen, if you will, I kind of run into the same thing. And you mentioned algorithms. To a large extent, I've recently decided I'm just going to throw the algorithm away because it's like a moody or schizophrenic or bipolar person. You never know which one you're going to get. And all I want to do is interview people and let the audience know what either introduce people such as yourself so they can have some new, fresh music from somebody they didn't know before, or, new, fresh music from an artist we grew up with, and consume that. I mean, I got tired of always having to change when I posted and this and that and the other, trying to tell me who to talk to. Oh no, it's not going to work that way with me. And so,
Yeah.
it came a point where I just had to dig my heels in and say, look, I'm going to roll with this where I think, I feel like I have my thumb on the pulse of the audience. I'm trying to grow it, but the algorithm is not my audience. People are. And so I'm trying to remember that and then let the numbers come when they come.
Right on. I feel the same way about it. And I think it's really important because I think that level of authenticity is also what kind of draws the right audience to you. And by the right audience, I mean just the people that are supposed to be your audience, the people that you would naturally connect with. I think it's really important to find those people. And I don't think that, algorithms are the best way to go. Chasing those algorithms are not maybe the best way to go about finding your tribe. That's
I I agree. I agree. And talking about these singles and releasing them one at a time, what do you think audiences and listeners miss when they don't hear an entire album? When it's just kind of spoon fed to them a little bit at a time, instead of like when I was a kid going and buying, say, the new Elton John album or the new Bob Dylan album, to sit down and drop it on the turntable and read the liner notes while the whole thing's playing. To me, that's how I liked consuming albums, whether it was a thematic album or a greatest hits album didn't matter to me. That's how I consumed it. I feel like people miss things by not consuming a whole album. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think you sort of answered the question, really. I think that's exactly what it is. I think that there's a sort of beautiful ritual involved in listening to a whole body of work by an artist. And of course, before that ritual was really about the physical product as well. It was about the
Mm-hmm.
ownership of it. It was about the enjoying the whole experience of it. And that wasn't just the sonic experience, but it was a visual experience of seeing the photographs and the footnotes and the lyrics and whatever photos were there, and it was a whole thing. And I think that that still kind of applies in the digital world, because even digitally, when you have an album, maybe there are canvas videos that go with it, or different things that are with it. And of course we can still release physically as well, as I've done with this album. That kind of whole thing of experiencing the project in all its dimensions is a beautiful thing. And listening to a body of work, and like you said at the beginning, it took you on a kind of journey, right? It was like you felt an experience rather than just listening to songs. You don't really get that from individual songs. You might get a mini version of that when you listen to a
Right.
song, but when you listen to that times 11, you're really going on a journey then with the artist. And I think that's a really important thing. I just finished a record store tour in the UK. And that was really interesting, because what I did notice, there's much younger audience in the stores in general. Like, when we were setting up to play, people just coming in, buying records, and the demographic of, who's going into shops is a lot more mixed now than it used to be. And
Hmm.
also that there are just a lot of young people. And that seems to be, and I asked a lot of the record store owners, I was like, it's really interesting that I'm seeing so many young people in the shops. And they were like, yeah, it's happening a lot, because young people, they're growing up with a digital world. So they know that already, but they don't really have ownership of music anymore. They're renting it when they're on Spotify and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
so they also want to own things. They also want to be part of an experience. They also want to be able to understand what that ritual of listening to music is. And that's beautiful. It was so exciting to know that that hasn't died, and it's actually having a kind of resurgence in the younger generation. So I think it's a very human need to want to go on the journey with the artist too. And it's nice that that's still being
I
felt.
agree. I hope that trend continues and it's not just a flash in the pan, but
Me too.
but
I'm hopeful. I have a lot of faith in the human race. I think that
well,
I think it
and I
will
think
continue.
I think secondary to that too are people, especially after COVID, getting people back out to the venues to watch live shows. I mean, to me, that's the second best thing to owning physical media of a kind, whether it's, the vinyl records or CDs. Yeah, we can watch a video all day long, but there's nothing like going and sitting in the seats and seeing the artist play and the interaction with the crowds and all that. I mean, that's a
Yeah,
beautiful experience, and I hope the kids keep kind of coming back to that. I
yeah.
want to focus on one of your songs here for a moment. I'm one all about symbolism and parables and things like that. I love a well written song, wordplay and all that. And on your car, the song, I mean, it uses a catastrophic car accident as a metaphor for emotional collapse. And how did that idea first come to you? What fueled that idea, and what I mean to put those kind of words together is pretty powerful. Tell me the
Yeah,
story behind that.
it's a good question. So that song happened, it was during COVID, and I was stuck in a lockdown in Italy, and I was writing a few songs, and I was listening to a lot of my favorite old songs as well. And it was quite a strange dystopic kind of reality at that time. And I remember that I would listen quite often to a song called Warm Leatherette, which, if you don't know it, is it was written by a band called The Normal, which was actually one guy, Daniel Miller, and he actually
Mm.
ended up starting Mute Records, the very cool record label. So he was a kind of a cool dude, and he had this song called Warm Leatherette, and it's basically, I think it's directly written about a car crash, and it's a very odd song. Like it's a very strange piece of music. I adore it, and it's not for everyone, but your listeners might enjoy checking it out if they haven't heard it already. And and I just wanted to write. I just thought, God, that's so powerful. And he wasn't really using it as a metaphor for anything. He was just like, I'm just going to describe a car crash and put a crazy synth part in, and that's my song.
Uh-huh.
Or maybe he was trying to have it as a metaphor. I can't speak for Daniel Miller, but it was kind of such a weird time, and I was like, God, I wonder if I could write a song where I use that as a metaphor for something, for kind of relationship, and so that's how the idea for the car came about. And I think, yeah, I mean, if you understood that, then I guess I pulled it off. So
Or you did it very well. Did
thank
did
you.
writing that did writing I mean, after I heard the song, I'm kind of like, whoa, So did writing the song kind of leave you emotionally exhausted?
Yeah, you're not the first person to ask me that, and not really, if I'm absolutely honest. I think that it's quite cathartic writing
Mm.
songs for me. So, so I sort of probably just already have all those emotions and ideas, and it's just nice to set them free. When you sort of put them out and you put them on paper, there's a kind of release because then they're like, now they've got somewhere else to live. They don't have to kind of sit there fluttering around inside me. So
Mm-hmm.
I quite enjoy that sense of them being kind of freed onto the page. And then again, then there's the next layer when you then can put that together with the music and then put the song together. And so it's a sort of this the whole journey is quite cathartic, really, in some ways.
Yeah. When listeners tell you what one of your songs means to them, has there been any of those stories that like really surprised you as far as how a particular song impacted them?
It's surprised. I mean, it's always an absolutely beautiful thing when someone tells you that a song you've written has connected with them, because that's the whole point of making art, is to connect with others, really. First a
Mm-hmm.
connection within yourself, and then also then to other people. So it's beautiful when people kind of feel a connection to your work. And sometimes there'll be like funny things where I'll feel like a story is quite obvious, but then somebody will have like a really wild interpretation of it. But again, that's a great thing because, no matter how personal the song is to you, a good song should always be transferable to someone else's own circumstances. They should be able to but that have their own take on it. It should be open enough that people can do that. There was once a reviewer years ago. I've only ever in my whole career recorded one song that I didn't write the lyrics for, because I always feel that lyrically, that part should always be mine, even if I collaborate on the music. And one time I let my guitarist, I don't work with him anymore, he's an amazing guy, he's a wonderful man, we're still dear friends, and he wrote the lyrics for this song. And it got reviewed, the album got reviewed, and the reviewer was like really scathing about the song. It was like, and very scathing about the fact that I was a female and I'd written a song about shoes and how obvious it was and da da da. And it was so funny because he totally missed the point because the lyric was written by a man. And it was a metaphor for something else completely. And it was such a beautiful, gentle, gorgeous song, which is why I wanted to record the lyric. And it made me kind of laugh out loud that it had irritated this reviewer. He got really antsy about it. I was like, oh, dude, you're so far off the mark. It's like that one amused me a lot. I thought that was kind of cool, but it doesn't happen often, actually. Yeah.
I saw that the album was recorded in three locations: Tuscany, and then I've never been to Tuscany. I've barely been into Italy. I hit it from the Alps, almost well, too long ago. But the other two towns I've been to, Nashville and Austin, lovely towns both. I love them both. Did
Yeah.
those locations, and both of them are very much music towns. I mean, in their own right, their own vibe of music, and to me, I just think that's what really makes those towns is that whole musical vibe and a variety of music at that. Did those locations influence the music that you put on this record in different ways, or did it facilitate the same thread or theme or feel that you were going for on the album?
Both, both of those things, to be honest. I specifically recorded in those places because I wanted the music to have a certain sound. And then, and then in achieving that, those places also did inform those songs too. So it was kind of a double gift, really. There was the kind of gift of going there and working with musicians who gave me that kind of sound that I was looking for specifically to those tracks. But that process of working in another country with a sort of cultural take on the music and sort of being inspired by that, it definitely gave more than just the initial thing that I went there to get. It gave me a much richer, more interesting sound, and also kind of inspired me to kind of keep writing for the album, maybe in a way that I might not have done had I never gone there to record those first songs there. So it was a real joy to get to work in Nashville and Austin and experience those cultures and work with the musicians there and be inspired by that as well.
Cool. I love the album cover, and I read the story on it. Tell
Yeah.
viewers the story behind this album cover.
Yeah, so I was in Denmark and I was recording the video for one of the songs, shooting the video for one of the songs, The Boy and the Swan. And I was with two very dear friends of mine who I've known for a very long time. And
Mhm.
while I was in their house and we were, putting the makeup on my friend for the video and everything, and I noticed that in the corner there was this collection of toys. And I was, taking pictures, as we were doing a video, like behind the scenes pictures and bits and bobs. And I snapped that shot that is the album cover. And just because I thought it just looked so sweet. And then months later, when I decided to call the album Held Here Together, I had a whole different idea for the artwork I was going to have because I always do my own videos and I always do my own artwork. And and then I was flicking through my camera and I saw that picture and I was like, no, that's that's the picture for the album because the story behind those toys and why they were in that corner. Because I asked my friends, I was like, "Oh, why have you got all your kids' toys there?" And they told me that when they were children, they both suffered, their own kind of trauma, and their toys were their anchor, their best friends. And when they got married, they decided to collect their toys and put them there and hold them there together so that their toys would become a family too. And I was like, right, that's it. That's that's the album cover. Like they're beautiful things held there together, just as my songs are held there together too.
Very good. I love that story.
Mm.
I want to shift gears for a moment. I read that you did a documentary that the subject matter is very near and dear to my heart, and is you found a friend in Elvis.
Yeah.
Tell viewers the story about that documentary and what first drew you into that story and that whole thing.
Yeah, so that happened because I was watching a documentary. I love documentaries and I love music documentaries specifically. And this was called Love Hurts, and it was a BBC documentary directed by a guy called Nigel Cole. And it was beautiful because it was about Roy Orbison, but from the perspective of his three living sons. So it had a kind of special slant on it, because it was his family talking about him rather than someone externally narrating. And in it, Roy Jr. started telling us extraordinary stories about his dad, Roy, saying, "Oh, my dad was such a big Elvis friend of Elvis's that even when Elvis died and there was a plot by a group of thieves to steal his body, my dad was gonna get in his car, grab a gun, and go save the body." And I was like, "What?" So, and then it cuts, then it's very polite BBC edit, and it moves on to something else entirely. And I was like, that's insane. So my first instinct was to write a song. And so I did. I kind of wrote a song about that story because I thought it was so fantastic. Then I would play it live at shows, and people would come up to me after the show and go, I tell them the story and they go, "Why is that story true?" And I was like, "I've no idea." And then a friend of mine, who'd seen a previous short film I made, said to me, "You know what? You like making short films. Why don't you make a short film and find out if that's true or not?" So that's what I did. I went to the States and we researched and we made a little documentary finding out. And that, spoiler alert, half of that story is in fact entirely true, which blew my mind now.
Wow. I'm going to have to
Yeah,
track it
yeah,
down and watch it.
yeah. Yeah, it's showing at the moment across America in festivals. I think the next one it's scheduled for is the Red Cedar Festival, which is in Minnesota in September, late
Ah,
September, I think. So
okay.
you can
Okay.
maybe pop
Well,
up or down and see that.
so so back on the album, two more questions on that specifically. One was there any surprises while you were making the album?
Yeah, I mean, I expect there's always surprises. Every time you try and record a song, because you might have a quite a set idea of how it's going to be, but there'll always be a curveball. There'll always be something that doesn't work out the way you think it will, or something that works out better than you think it will. I think sonically too for me were Sunny Days because I never imagined that having that kind of beautiful kind of almost kind of sexy tango kind of vibe that's going on in it. And that was really, I have to credit my engineer, Pete Davis, with that because I was putting together kind of string ideas and I had this kind of idea for it. And he was like, "Oh, and he kind of had this, he was just thinking about a tango. It was like, but there's this kind of push and pull with the relationship thing. And that really shot it into the direction that it went in. And I was so much happier with the song for it going there. So that was a surprise. I didn't imagine that one doing that. And Havana Garden, I think as well, because that one again, probably more to do with the strings. Again, I had a more traditional arrangement in my head, but then it almost as an kind of almost Hawaiian kind of feel to it in the strings in the melody there sometimes, and I love how that just kind of happened, that it didn't sort of just go on a kind of homage to the Buena Vista Social Club. Like it could have gone, it could have done something much more, I don't know, musically obvious, and I like that it didn't. And in both those cases it's just about obeying what the song's telling you. I feel like songs tell you what they want to be. You just have
Yeah.
to be willing to listen to it. And and being able to hear that just comes with experience and time and patience. And I think that with this album, I've just had a little bit more of all of those things than I did on the album before, So it just allowed me to sort of listen a bit closer and let things sort of naturally do stuff that did indeed even surprise me. So yeah, long may that keep happening. Yeah.
What would you, as far, I never ask artists anymore what their favorite song is because that's like asking a parent to pick their favorite
Yeah, don't
child.
do that.
Uh, but what I do ask is what one song would you point to? I used to refer to it as a calling card, but then when I was interviewing Chris Stamey of the DBs, he said, "Oh, you mean the gateway drug." So what song would you point to on this album as the gateway drug for the rest of the album?
Oh my God, that's brilliant. That's such a great description. I'd love that guy. He sounds great. Ooh, that is. a tough one. I suppose honestly, when you choose the running order of the album, you like to think that you've consciously chosen your gateway drug with your first song. So I
Yeah,
think
that's a
I
good point.
felt that the film, I think I felt that the film was the song that should people should enter into the album with, that it gave enough of the kind of eccentric British take on Americana and indie folk, while still obeying true to some of the musical kind of sounds that you would expect from those genres. So and a little storytelling, but not quite as deep into the storytelling as we go further in the album, kind of just getting you, just coaxing you in there gently. So I stand by my choice of the film as, as my gateway drug for the album, I suppose. Although if I'm honest, the song that springs to mind when you ask the question is "The Boy in the Swamp." I think if I
Ah,
were to say, if you could pick one song and say, if people could only hear one song on your album, which would it be? Then I think I'd like them to hear that one.
ah, I like that song too. What's
Mm.
ahead for you for the rest of the year? You've got this album out. You're plugging it a lot. Is there tours? What else is going on for Bird from today forward until the end of the year?
Yeah, so quite a lot actually, which is really nice. I'm obviously the album's out now. We'll have a couple more singles out before the end of the year. Then September, I'm going to be touring the UK with a wonderful country Americana band called Ward Thomas and the Wandering Hearts. And then in November with an American artist called Ron Pope, who's from Nashville, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll be touring Europe together.
Ah,
And that'll pretty much take me up to December. Then I'm also working on my first full-length music documentary, which is a kind of follow-on from the short You Found a Friend in Elvis, actually. There's one person we interviewed in that film who told an extraordinary story, which is now going to become its own documentary. So I might be back over in the States in between those two tours to work a little on that. And then next year, hopefully, an American tour. Hopefully, we'll be back over in the States again playing properly in January and again in March. So fingers crossed. We don't have the dates quite figured for that yet, but as soon as we do, we'll put that on the website. So, which is
oh,
birdofficial.com for those out there who want to find me.
well, well, I'm in the Smoky Mountains way down south, so I hope that you are somewhere within driving distance when you do tour the states next year. And
Well, I'd love to.
so,
If you have a venue in mind, if you drop me a line, let me know, then we'll try and make sure we put it on the schedule.
okay. One final question for you.
Mm.
Boomerocity is really about preserving stories before they're lost, getting artists' thoughts about their work and other things. And, much like what we're doing here, years
Mm.
from now, when someone discovers your music for the very first time, what what do you hope they say about Bird? Not just about the artist as the artist, but as the person.
I hope that they hear the honesty and authenticity in what I do. I think in a world that feels quite often, it's quite difficult to find the truth now, isn't it? To be honest, and
Mm-hmm.
and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's just got to do a lot with also the excitement of how rapidly our world is developing, and I mean excitement in all of its ways, and positive excitement and negative excitement, but there is a lot of that, a lot of noise. And I try to make sure that I'm just dropping something gently into all of that still is just full of of humanity, really, that comes from a very human place, and that I genuinely say with absolute honesty to the world, and I try to make that way. I don't really use any autotune at all in my music. I never use AI to write or compose music. And
Right.
and I hope that people, especially in the future where technology becomes even more prevalent and we use it even more, I hope that people will feel like they go into a little kind of human bubble with me for a moment there.
Yep.
That would be
Yep.
nice to give
I
people, I think.
I think you're well on your way on that, and I think the authenticity that you show in your music is amazing, and how you articulate that, and that's what I think is lacking in a lot of music today. I'm all about. I mean, I'm a rock and roller, but I turned to folk and country and Americana. I guess all of that's under the Americana umbrella To me, that's
Yeah.
where the best lyrics are written. You know, if you want the sound, you go to rock and roll. If you want the heart and the lyrics, you go to country, folk, Americana, and put the two together,
Right
and
on.
you've got Nirvana. You know, so you got Elvis.
Yeah, that's
So,
true. That's true. That's what the next album's going to be. I think I need to go back because I'm a drummer as well. So I
ah,
also did a lot of rocking when I was young. So I feel like that I'm feeling pacier a little bit now too, but with that lyric writing. So who knows? Maybe I'll make my own strange Nirvana-esque album at some
well, there you
point.
go. There you go.
I'd
Why
love to
not?
try. So why not? Yeah.
That's right. Well, Bird, this was fun. This is great. I look forward to talking to you again down the road. So my door's always going to be open to you. So
I'd love that.
whenever
I'd love that.
whenever you have something rolling out, let's get one of these together and let fans know about it. Okay.
Sweet. Thank you very much. And thanks for listening, everyone. It's great.
Thank you. Have a good. Enjoy the rest of your vacation.
Thank you very much.
All right. Take care. Bye bye.
Nice to meet you. Bye.
This has been another fun-filled episode of Boomerocity with your host and producer, Randy Patterson. The theme song for Boomerocity is Roll the Dice and is recorded and used by permission from Quentin Hope. Quentin is spelled Quinten, and Hope is Hop as in Paul, E. And you can find out more about Quentin Hope and his music at quintenhope.com. Post-production is done by Cardinal Sins Productions. The Boomerocity name, logo, and content is copyright protected. Segments may only be used with written permission by Boomerocity and or its assignees. Inquiries should be directed to input@boomerocity.com. Copyright 2026.